Okay, I actually lied. I think we're gonna change and just review real quick what we need to do, practice gradient one more time. So I checked everybody's homework. It looked good. I do want to start on page 34, which, yeah, I mean, do you have to go back? You probably don't have to go back. Here are the notes that we took yesterday about gradient. So you guys did the profiles. They all looked really good. Yesterday, we talked about gradient. Remember, gradient is the slope of the land, or in other words, how quickly the value changes. And then there were steps for figuring out gradient, and they all really revolve around the gradient formula, which is the change in field value divided by distance. So to figure out each one of those, the change in field value and the distance, you do have to start by determining the contour interval, making sure you know what it is for every single line as you go up. Then you calculate the change in field value by subtracting. Then you use the distance. So you use the map scale to find the distance, and then you just plug those numbers into the formula, change in field value divided by distance. So really we're doing step 2 divided by step 3, and your units do matter. I want to give this another try. I believe we did it in this class. We did page 35 already, didn't we? All right, so let's try one more on page 36 before we kind of put this all together. So here's page 36. We got just a teeny tiny little map here. Step 1, what should we do? Determine the contour interval and write it in for each line. So in case you can't see, we have 100 here, and this 250 is on the inside circle here. What could they be going up to get from 100 to 250? Yeah, they're going up by 50. So this line's 100, this line's 150, the inside line's 200. And if you can't tell, by the way, B ends right on that 200 line. A is right there on the 100 line. So is there any work to show down here for step 1? There is not. Don't write anything in that box. I don't want you to write the 50 in that box, because then you're going to get yourself messed up, because then you might think 50 is an important number, and it's really only what the lines are going up by. Step 2, change in field value. How do we find the change in field value? Yeah, but how do we find change in field value? Go back to the directions that we did yesterday. What does it say we gotta do for step 2? Just subtract the 2. Always put the bigger one first. So in our case, what is the value of B? No, B is on the 200 line. See, B, 200. And is that 200 elephants, 200 feet, 200 inches, 200 meters, 200 kilometers, 200 miles? In this case, it will be feet, 200 feet. A is at what? 100 feet. So how much does it change? Okay, it changes 100 feet, easy enough. Then we find the distance. How do we find distance? Distance between the 2 points. How do we do that? What does it say in your notes from yesterday? Use the map scale. So everybody grab your scrap paper. Any piece of scrap paper. If you need a new one, grab one. If you need to fold yours in half, do that, whatever it takes. Mark off where A touches and where B touches. Bring that down to the map scale. Mine pretty much is it 1 mile exactly? Mine isn't. Is yours? Yours is? Close enough is not a thing. Not in science. So mine is over just a tiny bit. I'm going to go with 1.1 miles. If yours is exactly 1, go with exactly 1. Guys, also remember, how do you abbreviate miles? MI. If you're not positive how to abbreviate miles, Don't guess, write it out. So if you're not positive, write it out. Because if you screw up and do an M, that means meters, and here's where you'll get it wrong. Step 4 is just to write the formula. Gradient equals change in field value divided by distance. Step 5 is just to plug these in. So the change in field value goes first. Which number is that? 100 feet divided by 1.1 miles. What is the answer if you use those numbers? Round to the nearest tenth in science unless they tell you otherwise. So always one number after the decimal point. So that's if you do 100 divided by 1. It's not what I have. So it's 90.9. What are the units? Yep, whatever you have right there. Feet per mile. That's a pretty steep hill. Do page 36 on your own right now. I meant 37, sorry. We see where it is and then start over again. One whole mile. Yeah, it's only not 6 miles. So show me how you got that. Like from there to there. That's some more about that. All right, let's see how you did on that one. So what are they going up by? 2s. So there's 24, 22, 24, 26. So step one, there's nothing to write. Step two is the change from A to B. What is A's? 26. What is B? 22. So how much did they change? 4 feet. When you measure how far apart they were, I saw a bunch of little mistakes with this one. So there's A, there's B. When you brought that down to the map scale, it was too big for the scale that was here. So what you do is you mark on your scrap paper, well, there's 6 miles. And then you start over again. So we're 1 line past 6. And remember, these go up by 1 mile. So 1 line past 6 is 7 miles. I saw some of you say 7.1. Either way is good. Whatever measurement you did is good there. Plug this into the equation for step 4 and 5. So 4 is to write the equation. Step 5 is to plug it in. So I'm just going to do them together. We have 4 feet divided by 7 miles. What did you round that answer to? 0.6. What are the units? Feet per mile. If you did not round that, so I got 0.57 something. If they tell you to round to the tenths and you don't, or you do it wrong, so 0.57. We want one number after the decimal point, but we don't just cut it off and say 0.5. We decide, does that 5 have to stay the same or round up? And because it's a 7 next to it, it rounds up to 0.6. So make sure you're good with the rounding. I want to try one more like this, but I want to do something a little different. What if I didn't give you the box for all the to show all your work? Could you still do it? Do it without using the boxes. Find the gradient without using the boxes, because the boxes won't exist on the regions. Yeah, so how you know if it's feet if they don't tell you, which I think they always will tell you, is if the scale's in miles, like we use miles, we also use feet, like we being Americans. In Canada, their scale would be in kilometers, and Canadians use meters instead of feet. So they always go together, meters and kilometers, feet and miles, but I do think the directions would always tell you. But remember, we're not using the space for the work this time. Just show your work or do your work, or don't even do your work. Just give me the answer. Yes, I should look at these. I don't think they did 15 minutes. Guys, if anybody needs a calculator, they're up here. Please don't do math in your head or like long division. It's cool that you can, but don't waste your time. Anybody else? Yeah, no bonus points for being a good math student in here. So if you're not, so for the whole showing your work thing, I know that it was drilled in your head for math class, you have to show your work. in earth science on the regions, there's no points for showing your work. Does that mean you shouldn't write things down? I know you guys. I know us as humans. If we don't write down anything, we make really silly mistakes somewhere. So what did you write down? I saw work on everybody's in the little corner somewhere. What work did you write down? Okay, so how did you, so that was literally the first thing you wrote down was 15 minus 5? You did the 10, oh, so you just did 10 because you knew in your head. Okay, and that works. For me, I would at least write down some sort of resemblance of the equation. So I would do change divided by distance. I would at least, do you have to write it out? Did I write it out? I probably wouldn't have. I probably would have wrote G equals C over D, just so I knew what I was looking at. Yeah. Nope. The regions for earth science, and I think I showed you a few of these. I'll show you right now. What does the regions ask for? Barely anything. Start off with, these are all multiple choice questions. You get 60, no, you don't, you get 50 multiple choice questions first. Do you need to show work for multiple choice? No, all they want is the answer. Then for these are, if there were ones that required math, they were all worth 1 point. And if you don't show your work, you don't have to. The only time you would have to is if they flat out say, show your work, and I have never seen them do that. So you don't have to, but you have to start somewhere. So I start with the basic of the equation. Then I figure out how much they changed. What was B's value? 15. What was A's value? 5. So how much did they change? 10 feet. Now, walking around, I saw a bunch of different answers for the distance, and I understand on here why that was. I intended for the dots to be right there and there. So right on the line for A and right on the line for B. If yours were slightly different than that, that's why you're going to get a different miles. It is important that you do the estimating. So mine looks like it came out to be just before 2 miles. Mine did not come out to be 2 miles. And here's where we all estimated differently. I'm going to say that was 1.8 miles. If you said 1.9, you're good. 1.7, you're good. Mine was clearly not 1.5. 1.5 was a lot smaller, and it wasn't 2. That was a significant amount bigger. So when I plug in 10 divided by 1.8, I get this number. What does that round to if I want one number after the decimal point? 5.6, and again, feet per mile. So do you have to show all your work? So again, if you had a different miles, if you said 1.9 or 1.7 or 2 or whatever you said there, that will change your answer over here. You okay? All right. So do you have to show all your work? You don't. If you could do this all in your head, more power to you, but I know people make silly mistakes when you do math in your head. You comfortable with gradient? Let's put it all together on page 40. It looks like page 40. I want to do 44, like I said earlier. I mean 43. Wait, no, I don't want to do those ones. I want to do 41. Sorry. I know I'm a mass of indecision. This one literally has everything that you will, this is a perfect example of it. So this is a good one to do together. So we start, what's the number 1 rule of earth science? Okay, read all the words. So even start up here, even if it looks like directions, do it anyway. Points A, B, Y, and Z are reference points on a topographic map. The symbol with a triangle with a dot in the center, 533, represents the highest elevation on Aurora Hill. And then we got a map. So we got a map, we got Aurora Hill, Holland Hill, and Girard Hill, I think. Girid, I don't know, that hill over there. We got some creeks. We've got Lake Lackawanna. And we got it in miles. They do not tell us what they go up by though. In fact, that's question number 1. What is the contour interval of this map? How'd you know? Wait. You were right. How'd you know? How'd you know? Did what? The only thing to do is there are 2 that are labeled. 500's labeled, 550's labeled. The only 2 that are labeled. So how do we get from 500 to 550? 510, 520, 530, 540, 550. So for question 1, to answer that, it's 10. 10 what, by the way? Feet. And here's an example of what you asked earlier, and they did not ask it. They did not tell you in the directions. So again, if it's in miles, you know that feet go with it. If it's in kilometers, then meters go with it. So they just go together. State the general compass direction in which Maple Stream is flowing. Here is Maple Stream right here. They want to know. Ooh, I just heard 3 very different answers. So can we at least establish it's going south? How? Okay, not because it's not going north, because streams can go north. So we have to look at the lines themselves. Here is the 500 line. Now, no other line is labeled. So how do you know that's downhill? Okay, so you could have figured it out before. Here's 500. This one was 510. So that means this line is 510. So 510 to 500, that's one way. But honestly, I think that's the hard way on this map. What is the other way to tell that's pretty easy by just looking at the lines? Okay, see how they're bent? Bent that way, bent that way, bent that way. Every single line, when it touches the stream, bends. And what way did they bend? Now, where it comes from, the streams, the V's point to where it came from, and the water comes out of the V's. So the water is moving this way. So then what way is that is the big problem. South what? Southwest. Never eat soggy worms. Southwest. Right now, I would like you guys to do questions 3, 4, and 5 on your own. Me. those of you who have been checked already, while we're waiting for everybody else, you are gonna have homework on page 42 and 43, which is just more of the same stuff in the next couple of pages. Even though it's 2 whole pages, I think there's less than 10 questions. Once everybody's done though, we're gonna head back and go over these. It's really, yeah, it's really good. I don't know what that is. All right, I know almost everybody's done with page 41. I just want to make sure you're comfortable with the answers there. So when you make your profile, or no, we're not there. So for the gradient for question 3, in the end, I got 6.0 feet per mile. I know I saw a couple of you with 5.9, which is fine. You must have just, your distance must have been a little bit shorter or longer than mine, which is still fine as long as you're right around 6 feet per mile. How do we tell that the southern side of Holland Hill is the steepest? And you should have written that something about the lines being close together. And then I think I checked everybody who has finished here. This is what your profile should look like. The biggest mistake I saw were the hills and the hill and the valley. Again, up here, as this line crosses from right here, which was the 510 line. Let me just put up my, so from 510 to 510, this line in the middle, that's not a contour line, that's the stream. You don't want to put a mark there for the stream. So always be careful that you're only doing the lines, and then when you bring it down, it never got down to 500. So just make sure your profile did not go down and touch the 500. Does anybody have any questions there on page 41? I saw a whole bunch of you starting 42 and 43, which is your homework. Did anybody have any questions with that so far? If you have no questions, then I'm just gonna let you go ahead and continue working on that. And that's it for today. So again, you have homework, which is pages 42 and 43. And then you're going to have your test on Thursday. So we'll review tomorrow.